Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast YouTube channel. We are here today to preview our upcoming European clash against Kauno Žalgiris, the champions of 2025 in the Lithuanian top flight. And here to talk to us about Žalgiris, Kauno Žalgiris, I should say, is Titas Teiten. Titas, thank you very much for joining us. It was a bit of a chore finding a Lithuanian football expert that was capable of speaking proper English, and I'm very happy to have found you. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm looking forward to hearing everything you have to say about Kauno Žalgiris. Maybe you can start off with, how are you supposed to pronounce it properly?
Yeah, hello everyone. The pleasure is for me. Very glad to talk about the upcoming fixtures. You're supposed to pronounce it Kauno Žalgiris. The Z, the first letter, is supposed to pronounce Ž, and basically the name is basically means green forest.
Okay.
So that's the pretty much the meaning, and you're supposed to pronounce it Ž Žalgiris.
Okay, good. All right,
Yeah.
well, that's great to know. Of course, this game is already around the corner, and we already knew going into the tie with Radec Kralove, and you guys, well, Kauno Žalgiris already knew if they were to be eliminated by Dinamo Zagreb, their opponents in the Europa League playoffs would be Beşiktaş. So we've known for a while that this was the possibility, but of course we had to wait and see what the results would be of their respective games. Beşiktaş were able to beat Radec 2-0, and Kauno Žalgiris, unfortunately for them, went out against Dinamo Zagreb 7-1 on aggregate, I believe. But of course, Dinamo Zagreb are also a very formidable opponent. So, Titas, before we start diving into key players, the manager, the philosophy, and all that kind of stuff, can you tell us a little bit more about the recent history about the club? Because if I'm not mistaken, they've only recently become champions for the first time in their history. They're a relatively young club as well. How has their rise in Lithuanian football occurred over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so Kauno Žalgiris, as you said, is a recent club which was founded in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. But realistically, they're on the Lithuanian football map, as we could say, since 2015, when they first played in the first division of Lithuania. So yeah, it's only been 11 years. It's an extremely recent club. Basically, their fame, we could explain it thanks to basketball, which is like a second religion here in Lithuania. And Kauno Žalgiris is actually known more as a basketball club. They're competing in the best European competition, and they basically united in 2015, and if I'm not mistaken. And now they have become in Lithuanian football one of the best clubs. Most recently, the best club in Lithuania in 2025. I would say it was more by step. Every single year they were climbing, they were better, and 2025 was their best year so far, where they became, as you said, Lithuanian champions. And now, I mean, the future is pretty bright for this club. In Lithuania, obviously in Europe, they are suffering some hard defeats recently. But it's only normal. I mean, Lithuania is a small football country so far. So Kauno Žalgiris is an ambitious club in Lithuania, in Europe for the moment, a little bit, since they are at least guaranteed to play in the Conference League. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
A little interesting tidbit is they won their first ever Lithuanian championship this past year in 2025, but they actually ended up sacking their coach, Černiauskas, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Just before the start of their European campaign now, and they appointed the Croatian coach, Željko Sopić, who interestingly won the Croatian league back in 2023-2024 with Rijeka. Can you tell us a little bit more about that transition from their champion-making coach to now the Croatian coach that's supposed to lead them into this new era, I suppose, and help them take that further step, maybe into European football? They're already guaranteed at the very least Conference League football, so they will have a European campaign this season. What are the expectations of their new coach, and what was the reason for the dismissal of Černiauskas?
Yeah, as you said, Evanas Černiauskas, he is probably one of the main reasons that Kauno Žalgiris eventually became champions in 2025. And honestly, I have nothing bad to say about him, whether it was last season or this season. And the reason of his sacking is simple. The club started the season very well. If I'm not mistaken, they won almost every single of their matches at the beginning. And then you don't really know why, but there was a time where they couldn't win like 10 straight matches. And from a time like that, when you don't win 10 times in a row, it doesn't matter who the coach is. You gotta do something. You can't make the players leave. And I mean the decision was not simple, but it had to be made. And yeah, eventually before the European competition, Evanas Černiauskas left, which was, I would say, a gambling choice, because European competition for Lithuanian clubs is a key moment, and sacking a coach just before the start of European competition is extremely how do you say, riskful, yeah. So yeah, eventually they sacked him, and it was something that we probably, I mean, knew it was coming because they were losing matches, and there was no other way of doing it. And yeah, Željko Sopić is a new coach now since a month and a half, if I'm not mistaken. He's a Croatian coach. He has his methods, and for the moment, he has been a great addition to the club, because Kauno Žalgiris have made history, we can say it like that, because they have only become the second club in Lithuania to qualify for European competition. They have passed two legs of the Champions League, and now maybe they could. They are dreaming about Europa League, but at least they know that they will be in the Conference League. So the choice was extremely dangerous, but I would say the outcome is positive for the Kauno Žalgiris.
Yeah, and of course he booked them, I believe, their first ever UEFA Champions League qualifier victory over Drita from Kosovo. The first leg ended in 1-1. The second leg, I believe they won in the 94th minute with a penalty 2-3 to see them through to that next round against Dinamo Zagreb. So as to your point that he made history, so you could say he's had a short-term impact. Now let's focus a little bit on the perception of this tie. So obviously Kauno Žalgiris already played a very tough opponent in the Champions League qualifiers with Dinamo Zagreb. Now they have Beşiktaş. How is that tie, that matchup, viewed in Lithuania? What do you think, and what does the public opinion think of the chances for Kauno Žalgiris?
Well, as you said, both matches against Dinamo Zagreb say a lot about the level for the moment in Lithuania. The club lost 7-1, and it wasn't a surprising result. I mean, we thought that maybe they could do something better by not losing 5-0 at the first leg, but eventually, yeah, they lost 7-1. And yeah, I recently looked up the transfer market value of Beşiktaş, and I don't know yet how it reflects exactly the level. But I mean, when I see 237 million, it says a lot. I think when a club has players like Trossard, Kökçü, or Vlahovic, I mean, they're not world-class players, but let's be real, they're not very far from it either. And Kauno Žalgiris, how do we see this tie in Lithuania? We definitely know that it's going to be extremely difficult. The first match in Beşiktaş, in Istanbul, is going to be very tough. I guess that the main hope is not to concede a lot of goals. Let's say a draw would be extremely positive result. A loss by 1 or 2 goals would be good as well, in order for Kaunas to bring as many spectators as you can, so that the loss doesn't seem too big. So in Lithuania, we know that Beşiktaş is a big club. Obviously, it's one of the most renowned clubs in the country, in Turkey. So yeah, I have no doubt that it is going to be extremely difficult. And I also have no doubt that people in Turkey are thinking that it's a pretty easy opponent.
And one thing that surprised me a little bit, Beşiktaş just announced this actually, I think within the last hour, but apparently there will be no Kauno fans traveling to the game. I would have thought that would have been something that for a lot of fans would be an opportunity to go and see their team on the road in the Europa League like that. Are you surprised by that decision from Kauno not to ask for any tickets, or for the fans not to I guess there's no real demand for it?
To be honest, that's the first time I hear something like that, so I don't really know what to answer exactly. I mean, why this happened, but I totally agree that such a fixture, we don't, Lithuanian clubs do not have the opportunity often to play against such teams. So for Lithuanian fans, for Kauno Žalgiris fans, definitely it would have been a great opportunity. Again, I don't know why is that? What is the reason behind this? But maybe like the travel wise, I don't know. It's not very if you take a flight, it's not very far. So yeah, it would be a great opportunity for Kauno Žalgiris fans, definitely. But yeah, that's something that I haven't heard before.
And of course, we know what Kauno is, what they can expect in Istanbul. A very fiery atmosphere. Hopefully, a full stadium on Thursday. We'll see, with at least 30 to 35,000 fans. Dusan Vlahovic probably making his debut for Beşiktaş. He'll be on the bench. But what can Beşiktaş expect when they travel to Lithuania? What is the atmosphere like in Kauno Stadium? And do you think that atmosphere will play a key part in the chances of the team?
Well, to be honest, it will depend a lot on the first game. That's what I think. And that's also something we saw against Dinamo Zagreb, because they lost 5-0. And then obviously when you see your team lose 5-0, you don't have a huge, let's say, willingness to come watch your team again. Obviously, I'm not talking about the biggest supporters, but like let's say the small supporters, or just the people. Yeah, the casual fans, exactly. So it will depend a lot on the first game, but eventually, if they get a positive result, I would expect a full stadium. Obviously, a full stadium in Lithuania is definitely not the same as a full stadium in Turkey. But if as I said, yeah, if they achieve a full positive result, it is possible to see a great atmosphere in Lithuania, with also fans from Beşiktaş, I have no doubt, and we'll see how many tickets or places they will secure for the fans of Beşiktaş.
Yeah, what's the rough capacity of the stadium? Do you know?
The rough capacity of the stadium is 15,000. It's a relatively new stadium, and now they're making a new stadium also in Vilnius, which is the capital, which is going to be a bit bigger. But yeah, for the moment, it's the biggest stadium in Lithuania. Obviously, in international terms, it's very small, I agree. But that's all we have for the moment in Lithuania. And yeah, 15,000 is the biggest one in Lithuania.
Now let's talk a little bit now about the philosophy behind the team. So under Černiauskas, apparently what I read is that Žalgiris really tried to prioritize a possession-based and offensive style of play. They weren't just a team that would sit back and wait for counter opportunities. But now with their new coach Sopić and their European debut, it's not really a debut, of course, they played the European competitions in years prior, but with Sopić now, has that identity maybe changed a little bit? Of course, he inherited that team. Most of the players that won the championship with Žalgiris in 2025 are still there, obviously. So what are we to expect from them in terms of a tactical approach to the game, you think? Or games, rather?
Since the new coach has joined, I would not say there has been a major change in terms of philosophy. Yeah, as you said, I think that it's still pretty much based on on attacking football. That's also what the club president, Mantas Kalnietis, prioritized. He says that he wants an entertaining football for the fans, and that there's no meaning to be scared and just, I mean, you have to play and you have to show your talent thanks to attacking football. So yeah, the coach changes have not influenced a lot the philosophy, I would say. And yeah, the new coach also brings a lot of new players, which are not new to him, because basically he brings a whole group of Balkan players, mostly from Croatia. So in the future, maybe we'll see some different style of playing, but for the moment, it's pretty similar. But the thing is that I'm talking generally here, and now when they're gonna face a team which is stronger on paper, I guess we have to expect a defensive football in Istanbul in order not to concede as many goals as let's say in Zagreb. So I think that they are going to prioritize defensive football in Istanbul, and they're going to see how it will work. In Zagreb, they played in with 5 defenders, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe that's how they're also going to play against Istanbul, against Beşiktaş in Istanbul.
Okay, and normally we would say playing the first leg away is advantageous because that means you can hopefully finish the job at home. But of course we saw against Dinamo Zagreb that it can have the opposite effect when you travel away first and you get beaten 5-0. That obviously that second leg is kind of rendered to useless. We've had the same thing happen to us in the past against Bayern München, where we played away first, we lost, and then the return is basically insignificant because you lose by too many goals already and the chances are slim to nil. How do you see this now for Žalgiris? Do you still think it's an advantage that they play away first, or do you think that maybe in this particular scenario it would have been better for them to host their first game?
I think that generally speaking, yes, it is more advantageous to play away from home for the first game. But now, yeah, in this particular example, I think for Kauno Žalgiris, it would have been better to play at home. I have a great example of the other Žalgiris, because we have another team named Žalgiris Vilnius, who played against Galatasaray in 2023 or 2023, I think. And they played the first game at home. It ended 2-2, so it was not a positive result, but kind of positive result because they didn't lose. And yeah, again, Galatasaray is a much stronger team. And then they ended up by losing only 1-0 in Istanbul, so it was a pretty tied, let's say 2-2 games. So yeah, generally speaking, it's better to start away, but now I gotta agree that for Kauno Žalgiris, it's better to start at home.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the key players. One that's a little bit familiar to me is Amine Ben Gaib. He used to play for Kortrijk and Sporting Charleroi in Belgium. I believe he also holds a Belgian nationality. He scored the all-important winner against Drita from the penalty spot, if I'm not mistaken. How important is he to the team? I see he already has 10 goals for the team this season.
Yeah, if you ask me about the most important players of Kauno Žalgiris, I would definitely highlight him the most. Last season, he was the MVP of the Lithuanian league. He's the key player for the team. Yeah, I remember him that he played in Belgium, and since he joined Lithuania, I think he really he's in his prime, I would say. Now he's like he's 28, I think, and he has been playing the best football of his career. Again, against a team like Beşiktaş, we don't know what's going to happen, but for Kauno Žalgiris, he is for the moment the key player. We saw also, as you said, against Drita, he scored the winning goal. He scored also against Drita at home. So he has been a key player in important matches, and yeah, overall he's scoring goals as well. As an attacking midfielder, he's great at basically everything that an attacking midfielder can do. Passing, the whole technique, the ability to see free players or the field. So yeah, he's an extremely good player for Kauno Žalgiris, and I would say he's the main star of the team.
And any other players that you can particularly single out that Beşiktaş should be on their toes for?
They have some experienced players up front as well. I would say French player Fabien Ourega, like Brazilian player Leo Ribeiro. They are pretty good players. Again, as I said, the coach, thanks to the coach, there have been a lot of new players, and it's actually pretty hard to follow all the names of players because recently they have all came very suddenly. So maybe the whole new players also can surprise. I'm talking about like all the Croatian players, also the Lirim Kastrati from Kosovo, who's a right back. And yeah, also Vykintas Slivka from Lithuania. He's a midfielder. He joined the club very recently as well, a few months ago, and he has been key in the most important matches. So Ben Gaib is the star.
He also scored in the match against Drita, didn't he?
Yeah, he also scored against Drita while he had a back injury. So yeah, he was very important in their campaign so far as well.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the strengths and the weaknesses of the team. And so you already highlighted that the possession-based attacking football, but they'll probably be a little bit more on their guard in Istanbul, maybe with a potential five-man back line. So what are some of the main strengths when we look at this team? For example, are they particularly adept at set pieces or something along those lines?
I wouldn't say they're particularly good compared to other teams in set pieces. Obviously, they can be dangerous at that. They have pretty tall and great center backs. I'm talking about Anton Tolardov, for example. Tolardov from Georgia. He's a pretty good guy in the set pieces area. But overall, yeah, as I said, they are good at possession. Attacking football, again, against Beşiktaş is going to be totally different. So all they have to expect is probably uh, great defending, solid defending, and eventually quick counterattacks thanks to fast players up front. And that's pretty much all we're going to see, I think, against Beşiktaş with a huge atmosphere for the team. And yeah, that's all I got to
Yeah,
say.
and against Drita, we saw that they won the game, I believe, with 62% possession. Beşiktaş is also a team that very heavily favors ball retention, possession, high press. How do you think that it went wrong against Dinamo Zagreb, for example? What were their weaknesses? What did they do wrong in those matches? And what should they avoid to repeat against Beşiktaş, you think?
I would say there were some defensive mistakes, obviously. Maybe also the fact that they tried to bring their philosophy, which is possession and attacking football, but unfortunately against teams like this, it's not always easy. When on paper you're much weaker, to have possession and to play, let's say, some dangerous football, some would say, because against a team which is much stronger, it's very difficult. So yeah, just to be, united defensively, and yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, when it comes to the game, Titas, what are your general expectations? Who do you think will advance, and what is your maybe a cheeky score line prediction?
I would say that the favorite is without any doubt Beşiktaş. Kauno Žalgiris is a side which is already very happy to play European football next season because it's not something that happens very often for Lithuanian football. It's the very first time for the club as well. So they definitely are aware of the side that they're playing against. If I had to predict, I definitely think that Beşiktaş are capable of winning with 3 or 4 goals, with a 3 or 4 goal advantage. Kauno Žalgiris obviously hope to draw or to lose at least by 1 or 2 goals. But obviously, yeah, it's not a secret Beşiktaş is the favorite, and maybe Kauno Žalgiris will think that they have nothing to lose, so they're gonna be not as afraid, probably, as they could be. So yeah, I would say, obviously my guess would be Beşiktaş will qualify for Europa League, but in football we never know.
And for the traveling fans, the Beşiktaş fans that do decide to go to Lithuania for the match, do you have any travel tips, any things that, for example, local cuisine that they should try, or anywhere particular they should go when they're in the general area of the stadium or something along those lines?
So yeah, you have to just know that Lithuania is a pretty small country, so you can visit, if you're here for a few days, you can visit the main city, Kaunas. You can also go to Vilnius, which is the capital, which is a bigger city, and it's only 100 kilometers away. So I guess in train, it's totally possible to go there. In terms of food, the most popular dish, I would say, is cepelini. Is how do you say? It's some sort of potato dumplings with meat inside, and it's pretty good, I would say. And the whole cuisine of Lithuania, it's based off, let's say, potatoes, meat, and stuff like that. So I like it personally, and yeah, Kaunas is also a nice city. It depends obviously on the like the days that the people are staying. but if they have the time, they can visit as many cities pretty much as they want. So
Okay,
yeah.
thank you very much, Titus, for your in-depth analysis of our opponents, Kauno Žalgiris. I will tell everyone, I would like to say, go and check out Titus's pages on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, Futbolo Kambarys. He covers Lithuanian football. I hope I can pronounce that correctly, Titas.
Yeah, it was very good.
Go and check that out. Give him a follow. Anything else that you'd like to plug, Titas, before we take it out?
Well, thank you for making this podcast happen with me. It was a pleasure, and yeah, we're gonna both watch the game with hoping, and I'm hoping that it's gonna be interesting enough for both teams.
Sure. I think we'll both be watching the game and hoping for different results.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you very much, Titus. And thank you, of course, for watching this episode of the Black Eagles podcast for Beşiktaş against Kauno Žalgiris. Coming up this Thursday already at 8 local time, 1900 Central European time. And the return next week, Thursday, same time, probably same channel. Thank you very much. See you all. Bye-bye.